sorry Beverly Hills Cop 4, maybe next week. Oh, well, look at that, it's next week now. Beverly Hills Cop Axel F, now streaming on Netflix, is the feature debut of director Mark Malloy. He's working with a script from Will Beall, who worked on Bad Boys Ride or Die, Aquaman, and Zack Snyder's Justice League, and Tom Gormican and Kevin Eaton, who both worked on The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, based on a story written by Will Beall. The return of Eddie Murphy as Axel Foley, the iconic Beverly Hills Cop for the first time in 30 years. I haven't seen the first one in a long time, but I caught up with the other two shortly before seeing this. And this fourth one is pretty par for the course, which, coming right after the subpar third one, that's a major improvement. This does not try to do anything that hasn't been done by the movies before, but it's perfectly good at doing the old stuff. Eddie Murphy proves that when given the right material, he can be just as good as he was in the 80s. He is just as funny, and the script gives him some good jokes for him to deliver. Throw in some cool action scenes, and you basically got what made the first two good. You know, after watching the third installment, I skimmed the Wikipedia page for it. I swear I don't do that for every movie I see, I just wanted to see what people thought of it back then. And allegedly, the reason Eddie Murphy gave for Axel not being as funny was because the character's older now, so he wanted him to be more mature. But it's really because he had depression. Well, thankfully, Eddie's doing pretty well now, and Axel's gotten less mature, so thank goodness we're not moving the franchise forward again. Yes, this one did go straight to Netflix, which is surprising for such a recognizable franchise that many find nostalgic. Maybe if it did get a theatrical release, it could have attracted the same crowd that made Bad Boys Ride or Die successful, but it's on Netflix and it, I guess, splits the difference between being the usual Netflix stuff and being a genuine blockbuster. Meaning it has the usual Netflix tendency to not be anything special. It repeats a lot of what made the originals work without really adding much to it. It's a generic story, although, then again, when were these movies ever known for their deep and surprising look at law enforcement? But it becomes more than just another generic Netflix movie simply because it's so good at what it does. It imitates the originals perfectly without feeling the need to really add anything to them. This movie is a good throwback propelled by the return of its star. It's not quite a movie where you ask yourself why they couldn't do better than Netflix, but it's still a movie that feels like it could have easily been a good blockbuster legacy all the same.
One of the many communities hit by tornadoes on April 3 and 4 was Xenia, Ohio.
This is a terrible thing. It's my parents' home here, and as far as the outside help, our town would have been helpless without it.
Every church in this community, I mean, it's tremendous, the stuff they have. Money's the main thing right now, is what they can use.
You can help in Xenia and other worldwide disaster areas. Give through your local United Methodist Church.
Twisters, from Warner Brothers and Universal Pictures, the two companies that give my channel the hardest time with false copyright claims together for one movie. And now I'm going to have to give it a positive review anyway. Either way, it was directed by Lee Isaac Chung, director of Minari, and written by Mark L. Smith, a writer for The Revenant, Overlord, and The Boys in the Boat, from a story by Joseph Kosinski, director of Top Gun Maverick. Another legacy sequel. And like Maverick, it's to another movie that opened to mixed reviews but is still looked on fondly by some to this day. It's Twisters, with an S. Totally different. I'm not going to pretend I have the deepest relationship with the original. The first time I ever saw it was the night before I saw this one. But with it fresh in my mind, I think I can say that this new one is pretty much almost on par with it. It has the same good disaster sequences, except it also has the advancements in technology that make them look even more real and spectacular. But it also has a slightly more interesting story and characters. It appears to start out pretty similar to the original, opening with a flashback of the main heroine, played by Daisy Edgar Jones, suffering a tragedy at the hand of a tornado, then having her go on a mission years later to try out a new tornado-related machine that looks a little similar to the one in the original, albeit with a different function, introducing a rival played by Glenn Powell, who's a YouTuber who initially appears to fit into the
He's in it for the money, not the science.
category. But then things go into a different direction, and Glenn Powell kinda ends up being the best character in this movie. Unlike Beverly Hills Cop, which I can't stress this enough, didn't need to do anything different, this one is willing to be slightly more than just nostalgia bait. And Glenn Powell, once again the best character here, steals the show. He has a good personality and is likable. I wasn't too familiar with him before the summer, I didn't even know his name a year ago, but with this and Hitman, he's definitely on my radar now. And he has good chemistry with Daisy Edgar-Jones, who also gives a great performance. And with an Oscar-nominated director at the helm, it turns out to have a little less cheese than the original. Although I'm not really sure if I'm ready to say that it's better than the original. I'm not saying it's not. Either way, I like both of them in similar ways. Twisters is another good legacy sequel. It delivers on the initial promise of tornado mayhem, but also goes a little further than that with the power of its two leads.